All right, we're here with Joel Goodman from Bravery Media. Bravery is a higher education website design and digital strategy studio solving the biggest challenges facing institutions of higher learning using data, insight, and humanity. So, welcome, Joel. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, John. Good to see you.
Yeah. Tell us just a brief, give us a little bit of, a brief overview of Bravery and what you guys do.
Yeah, Bravery's been in business coming on 12 years in June of 2024. I started it after working at two different institutions and getting a little burnt out and feeling like I wanted to work on more projects than just one schools. And so finished up a master's degree in media studies, moved from the Chicago area down to Austin and started Bravery. And then the last decade plus we've been doing a lot more website strategy, I think, than full like design and rebuild. So like we have a couple of redesigns and builds that are coming out super soon. Actually, like one actually launched yesterday as of when we're recording this. So
Cool.
we've got a few things coming out, but yeah, we take a research centric approach to how we develop strategy for universities. It's talking to the real people that are using university websites and figuring out what they actually want, and making sure that our client partners are being hospitable and caring to those people, because if you care about your users, they're going to become more than just users. They're going to end up being your students or your new faculty or your new staff or donors or whatever it is that you're looking to bring them in as.
That's awesome. So I found I was searching I think I was searching like the higher ed hashtag. So
Sure.
this might be the first time anyone's ever like seen a result from using a hashtag.
At least on LinkedIn.
At least on LinkedIn, yeah. But you posted a thing about wanting university websites to be faster and how we invest all this money into storytelling and content creation, and we drive people to websites that are just ineffective. So, we talk a lot, and like on my side of things, we're all about storytelling, and that's a really good. I think it's a really good thing because, we talk a lot about creating emotionally resonant content,
Yeah.
and creating content that's going to suck people in, but get them to do something. And so if you give them something to do and then you fumble the ball at that point, then you've wasted a lot of money. So talk about like what are some things that constitute like fumbles when people get onto the website.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, so when you think about the sheer amount of content that is on a typical college university website, there's all these news stories, there's tons of events, there's student spotlights, all these things that have come up through higher ed over the last 13, 15, 20 years. What's wrong with a lot of that content is not the content itself. It's that they turn into what I like to call black holes. It's that sort of thing where someone gets on your website and like you're telling a really great story about a student that did something and they're like really engaged with it. And then you link off to Instagram and then you lost them because now that person that was so into your story has now opened up the Instagram app and is now facing an algorithm that's getting them to not just look at your content on Instagram, but look at whatever other content's sitting in their notifications and everything else. So you've totally lost them. Or you tell this great story and you don't link to the program page that student was in, or to the opportunity page that talks about the student organization that put on the thing that helped them, helped you tell this really great story. So you've lost an opportunity to lead someone on to the next step after you've already started making your case. I think a lot of times we think that content is there just for brand building sake. And the problem is that we don't have enough time in our industry to spend a year, 2 years, 5 years building up a brand story and a brand connection with one individual that's looking to go to college in the next 6 months or the next year. You have to build that story and then progress them on to the next step, whether that's an inquiry or an application or something else. News stories are like the perfect example of this. People will write these great big news stories, and in general, like 90% of the time, maybe 98% of the time, news stories are not applicable to prospective students whatsoever. Like
Yeah.
they're really just they're vanity content that's up there to make a VP or the president or
Right.
the advancement office feel special, or maybe a donor feel special. But there's still an opportunity to make sure that if a prospective student accidentally lands on one of those things, that you can lead them back into that admissions funnel on your website rather than just drop them there and have them read a story and be like, that was cool, what do I do now? Okay, I guess I'm leaving and going to check my WhatsApp group messages or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
we don't take those opportunities to make sure that every piece of content that is written or filmed or put onto our website is leading to a step that gets someone closer to that admissions. We just expect it or assume that that person watching or reading or interacting with that content is going to make that decision on their own.
Yeah. It makes me think of I read a book called Instabrain where it's talking about marketing to Gen Z and how we think that Gen Z is just so scatterbrained and short attention spans and stuff, and they are in a lot of ways. They're constantly like, their brains even have like evolved to just scan content so fast before they decide what they want to land on. But if you do hook them and you can get them to consume something, what was interesting to me about the research that they did was that they will go deep down a rabbit hole of wanting to know more and more and more and more about your thing. So they suggested, build a rabbit hole for Gen Z to go down, which would likely exist on your website. So thinking about it as like, what would be something a little bit more, like a little bit the next step, and then a little bit the next step that they can consume.
Well, to your point, you don't want them to go back to Google or to Reddit and start a rabbit hole down information and content that you don't really control, that other people have talked about, right? Because you don't then know what opposing viewpoints they might be getting, or what an experience that one person had that's atypical from everyone else, but because it was negative, they went and talked about it really loud online. And you have no way to actually control that. And I think on the other side of that, there's this caveat that, sure, if someone's willing to go and research, like, that's great, but we can't assume that that's everyone. And I think, when you're thinking about like conversion rate optimization and increasing how many people are interacting with your institution, you have to think about those folks on the fringe edges that aren't going and doing that mega research, and guide them. Expect they don't know anything about your institution, and lead them to the path, lead them to where they need to be in order to make those decisions for you. And that comes through linking to other pages. That comes through, kind of like related stories and, that sort of stuff. And, I think maybe the moral is just like, don't assume that someone is going to be the stereotypical person. Like, even for those of us that do like to research, it's still nice to be guided through something. Like, we're only going to start that like research digging process if we're not prompted with something else, or we're not given another path to find. We'll have to find our own path. And that's not always the best thing for your brand. It's not always the best thing for the results that you want to get from your website or from your content.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as you mentioned in your post about website speed. So what is that? How does that play into it?
Yeah, so I talk about website speed so much, and it's one of those things that I think probably in higher ed people are like, blah blah blah, he keeps talking about website speed, but you look at all the Google like page speed testing through Lighthouse and things like that. There was a study a couple of years ago that they did when they first released the Core Web Vitals rankings that for a website that loads in more than 3 seconds, you lose 50% of your potential conversion rate. Like, it's just half of your audience is gone. So if someone hits a web page on your site and it takes 3 seconds or longer to load, half of them just ditch and go somewhere else. The easy thing to do to like recover that is make your website faster, right? It's making sure that you're doing all the technical things, or that your IT is doing, or your vendor partner is doing all the technical things to make sure that images are loading quickly, that videos are loading quickly, that your website isn't bogged down by 1,000 JavaScript pixel tags from all the tracking and stuff that you're trying to do for your ad campaigns. And then from there, it's making sure that once someone gets to your website and it loads quickly, that you're putting the content in the right order, the right hierarchy for what their goals are as users hitting your website.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the hierarchy is super important and really like leading people to scroll down, maybe I'm just ignorant, but when it comes to website speed, like if I land on a website and it's taking a while to load, I just assume it's my Wi-Fi. That's slow. So I don't even like blame the the website person. I'm like, dang it, wow's our internet provider.
Sure, but I think like you have to think about like you have to be going there with intention, right? And so if someone's going to, if you were going to an e-commerce store and you knew you wanted to buy a hoodie from this particular store, you're going to wait a little bit longer than if you're just kind of like looking through a bunch of different stores looking for a hoodie. If you had one website that opened really fast and then you went, that store opens fast and shows you their hoodie, but you've got another tab that opens up and it doesn't load quick enough, you're gone. Like you're going to another store. And I think that's kind of the point, is when you look at how prospective students, how high school students are looking at different institutions and deciding like what college to go to, what university to go to. If you've already progressed them along and they've bought into your brand and they're a part of it, they've already inquired. Woo. Well, that was weird.
I thought you did like a weird like Zoom transition there.
We might have to do that again. Just a sec.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so okay, you'd said the thing about the speed, about
we're talking about
assuming it's your
hoodies
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So I think the difference is that if you're like e-commerce shopping, right, you'll go to one store and it'll load really fast, but then you're looking at another store and it loads slow, and then you look at another store and it's actually a little bit quicker. Like the slower one's the one that you're going to ditch if you're just kind of casually shopping. Sure. You have more tolerance for slow sites if you already know the store, you already know the university, you already know the college, and you already know that you want to go there. And I think that's the main difference, is that if we're only looking at those people that already have a brand connection with our institutions and saying like, well, the website's fast enough for them, we're totally ignoring those people that don't yet have a brand connection, and we're expecting and assuming that they're not looking at any other university websites, and that the other colleges they're looking at don't exist, or that their websites are way slower than ours, or that everyone is kind of on the same plane. And even if everyone is on the same plane, if you make your website faster, you've given yourself an edge, and you've already made sure that that person is going to be looking at your content because they were able to get to it really, really fast.
Yeah, that's important. What would be like, one or two things that people could do relatively easily to speed up their website?
Yeah, I mean, the common thing that we see is people that like manage the content on the website a lot of times haven't had the proper training. And so they're putting these like giant images on their websites. And I don't mean just like really big JPEGs that came off of, a DSLR. I'm talking about like they go and do a massive screenshot of something on their desktop and it saves it as a giant PNG file, and it's like trying to load 4 megs of image in one image, and they don't have anything in place to resize that. So making sure from the outset that you're not just dumping these giant files on your homepage or on your web pages. Short of that, ideally you'll have something in place that is automatically formatting and resizing those images and those files for you, so that you don't have to worry about it. So it doesn't matter if someone uploads that ping, like you've got a service, a web CDN or an image optimization CDN in place that's going to take that image, convert it to a JPEG, take it down to the right size, make sure that it's serving the right format to a person depending on what their device can use. That's kind of the big thing. I think a lot of times in higher ed, we want the shiny and the flashy, and we think that things that move around on our homepages are the things that are engaging to prospective students. But for the most part, they're not. Sliders, there's so much research over the last 10 years that sliders and carousels only hurt your website. But everyone still wants one. There's research that shows that drone videos on your homepage and your hero are out. Prospective students have seen so many of them. You're not cutting through the noise with that. You're just contributing to it, and you're making your website slower. So I think the media side of it and being smarter with what you use for media is important. I think the other thing is looking at the technology that's running your website. What CMS are you using? Do they give you the tools to modernize how that code is delivered? Did you work with a vendor that built your website design with something like Bootstrap, which is notoriously super heavy and not actually built or designed to be used in production. It was only designed for prototyping for engineers that didn't know how to design things. A lot of higher ed are using JavaScript like jQuery that isn't needed anymore and shouldn't be used anymore. You probably are, because your website was built 6-7 years ago. So a lot of it's on the technical side of how to speed up things. But the thing that a non-technical person can do is just making sure that they're not overloading every page with 15 to 20 images that are not sized properly.
Yeah. Perfect. That's great. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Where can people connect with you at if they want to reach out to you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Joel Goodman, LinkedIn/in/Joel Goodman. And you can find me on Bravery Media's site at bravery.co to see the stuff that we offer.
Awesome. Definitely reach out to Joel if you have website questions or want to work with Bravery. And yeah, I don't have an official sign off for these mini episodes. So bye.